Okay, so if you've been following the channel for a while, you know that earlier in this offseason, we made a few videos talking about a certain player that I've always been a big fan of. Let's talk today about Dylan Strome, because it came out earlier in this offseason that according to sources, the 2015 third overall pick was indeed on the trade block. This came from Elliotte Friedman, who made an appearance on the Instigators podcast, and I don't have the quote right in front of me, but I do remember it did say, to a great extent, that yes, Dylan Strome is indeed available. Now, why exactly was that the case back then? Well, it's because he was in a position where he was an RFA on a team that had several RFAs, and a team that had a few UFAs that they needed to re-sign as well. The Blackhawks were in a position where they didn't really have all too much certainty with where they would go with the direction of the team. And as a result, the idea of Dylan Strome, a 23-year-old top pick from the 2015 draft who had not lived up to expectations, would have been available. We also had another video where we spoke about Dylan Strome's comments, because later into that same offseason, he had a few comments where he spoke about how he wants to remain a Blackhawk. But in those comments, he also said that at the end of the day, he doesn't know if he's going to stay on this team. And that to me was a very interesting little tidbit, because in my experience when I watch NHL players get interviewed or listen to their quotes and all that talking about their status quo with the team, contracts and all that, you normally hear the same cut and paste kind of answer if you're getting an interview from a player who is a UFA or an RFA and who doesn't have a contract for next season. It's an honor to play for this organization, but right now, my focus is on playing the extra games that we have on our hands or winning these next few playoff games, something like that. I'll let the agent and the GM deal with the contract side of things. That's normally what you hear, but to hear Dylan Strome come out here and say, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be a Blackhawk next year, guys, that was very interesting to me. Well, now it's December 1st, or December 2nd when this video is being uploaded, and we have this article coming out here from the ChicagoSunTimes.com, talking about the Blackhawks and their overall offseason. And if you take a look at what they say about Dylan Strome, we have a big update as to the whole scenario that was going on, as to whether or not he was on the trade block or if he was going to remain a Blackhawk in general. Let's go down over into this article and talk about what exactly it says as to why Dylan Strome hasn't re-signed yet, because at the time of this recording, he's still an RFA who doesn't have a contract. Part of the holdup with Dylan Strome may be that his now former agent, Mark Guy, left the hockey industry this week. Guy also represented Hawks goalie Malcolm Subban. General manager Stan Bowman and coach Jeremy Colleton both said that the plan is to re-sign Strome. Okay, so that's a different take than what we had from the Elliotte Friedman Instigators podcast interview those few months ago. And I said this back in the video we made initially, where we spoke about that interview, because back in that time frame, the Blackhawks were in a much muddier situation than where they are now. They still had the Brandon Saad contract on their hands. They still had Corey Crawford as a potential guy that they needed to re-sign. Blackhawks fans in my comment section and Blackhawks fans on Twitter, on Reddit, all that stuff, they were all saying kind of the same thing. You know, I want to bring Crawford back. I want to keep this team the way it is. We need to get some of these guys. And even though we still have so many RFAs like Kubalik, like Strome, UFAs like Kajula and Crawford, there still are some things that need to be done. And we kind of know what happened afterwards. Brandon Saad is cap hit. It was traded. Zadorov is much cheaper than Brandon Saad. Corey Crawford didn't come back. He went over to the New Jersey Devils. And now the Blackhawks are sitting with not the same $100,000 in cap space that they had previously. They have about $5-ish million now. That's for this season, by the way. Last season, yeah, things were a little bit different. But they're still in the spot where they do need to re-sign Dylan Strome. Nobody is left on this RFA crunch that they need to get done. They have some guys for next year like Alex Nylander, David Kampf, Lucas Wallmark, but for now it's just Strome. The holdup is indeed partly because of the agent, which is definitely a fair assumption to make, but also the fact that a lot of the guys that were holding them back from making an immediate Strome re-signing attempt are no longer on the ballpark anymore. You don't need to deal with the considerations on what if a Crawford comes back. You don't need to deal with a Brandon Saad cap hit anymore. That's being a big obstacle there. I get that a lot of Blackhawks fans didn't want to see Saad go regardless, but at the same time, this was the move that they made. This article actually goes over a few other things relating to the Chicago Blackhawks and the roster players that they do have. It talks about how they have so many that are actually able to play in the NHL, meaning that one or two or maybe even a few more will probably need to be sent down or traded, because that certainly is a dilemma to have. You have so many players, you don't want to have too many guys sitting up in the press box because you're paying them for nothing, and you'd rather have these bodies elsewhere or assets distributed in other ways throughout the team. So, who knows if a Dylan Strome would still even be considered to be on the trade block. Drake Caggiula is mentioned in this article as well as one of the 13 UFAs who are still UFAs, who scored 15 or more points last season but is still unsigned. There are a few other names mentioned: Hoffman, Duclair, Soderberg, Brassard, Granlund, Athanasiou, Kovalchuk, Hollis, Sherry, Perry, Boyle, and Sheahan, but of course, that's a completely other discussion. I want to go back to Dylan Strome, though, because this was a guy whom, if you take a look at what he was able to do over the past few seasons, and we've noted this in several videos before, he was always such a very good OHL point producer. Back when I was in my, grade 9, grade 10 years? Yeah, something like that. I was religiously following this OHL campaign with Connor McDavid and Strome and Marner and Joseph Blandisi and Kevin LeBanc, and Dylan Strome was one of the better players in the entire OHL that year as an underage teenager, and he was so good with his overall dominance of the play. It's why he got drafted 3rd overall. It's just he was never able to put it together with the Arizona Coyotes. With Tucson, he was great, but in the Arizona system, yeah, he was less than okay. Which is why I was so happy to see him get traded to Chicago and actually do well. Pair him up with Alex DeBrincat, a guy whom he played with before in Erie. And he was a really good, just under a point per game player there in the 2018-19 season. He played 2018-19 with Patrick Kane, DeBrincat. He spent some time over with Artem Anisimov. And then next year, things got a little bit jumbled up. He played with DeBrincat and Kane a little bit, but he also spent a lot of time with guys like Alex Nylander, Kirby Dach, Ryan Carpenter once in a while, and then eventually Brandon Saad towards the end of it. But he did kind of have somewhat of a sophomore slump, I guess you could say. He was held back by injuries throughout his career sometimes, but in this season of play he had 38 points in 58 games, 3 points in 9 games in the postseason. Dylan Strome to me is a guy who is still 23 years old. He still has a whole bunch of room to grow. And even though he may not become the 100-point potential player like people were pegging him to be sometime back in 2014, 2015, 2016, he still does have a very capable skill set. We saw it last year. 22 years old, just under a point per game in the NHL. That's not bad. And for Dylan Strome, going into the long-term future, I definitely do see an opportunity opening up here, especially since the Blackhawks are not going to have that Brandon Saad anymore. You're in a position now with Chicago where Patrick Kane and Taves, these guys were great last year, but it's time for everybody else around them to step up to the plate. Kubalik, DeBrincat, Strome, these are the first guys that come to mind when it comes to bolstering up this offense without a Brandon Saad, and in their first year where they flat out say, yeah man, we're rebuilding, this is the plan now. So, as things go forward into the long-term future, who knows if the Kirby Dachs of the world and the Stromes and the DeBrincats and all that are going to give some of the other guys like Kane and Taves a little bit of breathing room. DeBrincat was a 40-goal guy. We know what he was capable at in the NHL level. Kubalik got 30 goals last year. Dylan Strome was under a point per game last year. Kirby Dach was getting better as the year went on. So, this is kind of that period, where you transform your team from what is mostly top-heavy being led by the older guys into what is a team mostly held up by the younger guys. So, obviously Patrick Kane's still going to be Patrick Kane, he's going to be great, but if Dylan Strome can use an opportunity opened up by the lack of a Brandon Saad, I guess you could say, to his advantage, then man, that's going to be great. So, talk to me in the comments what you think about Dylan Strome still being a target here and no longer being on the trade block, because if they're going to re-sign him, I don't really know what the idea would be if they wanted to do a sign and trade. To me, they say, oh, we want to bring him back, it means, oh, we want to bring him back, we want him to play next year. Now that we don't have Crawford to deal with, now that we don't have all these other guys, we have some extra money to burn now. So, yeah, Strome, come back. Personally, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, if I was a player and I was like, okay, this team is trading me. I hear from Elliotte Friedman turning on the radio one day that, yeah, I'm on the trading block, and all of a sudden, oh, they have some money now. They want to bring me back. I don't know personally how I would feel about that. Obviously, it's a business. You got to think about the team first before you think about the individual cogs that make up that team. But, of course, NHL players, NHL stars, money, millions of dollars. When you're dealing with that, things get a little bit different now, don't they? So talk to me in the comments what you think about this whole discussion over here. Dylan Strome coming back, not being on the trade block anymore, and what he can do next season. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. That Trolls 99, and bye.